Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, Mysterious Voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about some poetry that has interested me as of late. And it is also Black History Month, so again I want to talk about another black writer, black poet that has stood out to me in some capacity. And today's poem is all about the feelings that the beach elicits or instills within a person. I am referring to Beaches, Why I Don't Care for Them by Wanda Coleman. For those who don't know, Wanda Coleman was a black writer who lived between the mid-1900s and died around 2013. She wrote quite a bit of literature in her time, chapter books, poetry anthologies, and also served as an editor. What's interesting is she was also, she did a bunch of odd jobs, including editing for a softcore pornography journal, which is something that stands out among the poets and the writers in general. I think the only other person I can think of who has probably hit anywhere near close to that is probably Charles Bukowski. So quite a very interesting company that this writer has found themselves in. They were also somewhat controversial and confrontational, noting that some writing that Maya Angelou did wasn't that great and didn't hold up as well as some of her other writings. And people didn't seem to respond very well to that, and it seemed to have gotten her blacklisted from some literature circles, which is unfortunate. I think I'm siding more with Wanda here, where you're allowed to criticize a writer and you can't just praise everything they do, even though they're kind of an influential figure. You got to allow for some amount of criticism, and also historically, the people who have gotten the most flack for doing any kind of criticism has been black women. So, not the most ideal there. But yeah, a very interesting poet. This is my first time encountering her work, but I have read some of her other stuff that she's done. And Wanda Coleman is very morose in her poetry. She's been called a blues woman, which I can see some of her poetry kind of fitting that style. And I urge you to go seek out more of her work because it's really stand out. It's pretty high quality and get you thinking, especially this poem that I'm talking about today. And so without further ado, let's talk about Beaches, Why I Don't Care for Them by Wanda Coleman, of course. I'll read it, do a little bit of analysis, and then we'll move on from there. Beaches, Why I Don't Care for Them. Associations. Years of being ashamed, my sometimes fat, ordinary body. Years later shamed, past left a sad aftertaste. Mama threatening to beat me if I got my hair wet. Curses as she brushes the sand out. It's gonna break it off. It's gonna ruin your scalp. Or the tall, blonde-haired, gold-bronze muscled lifeguards who played with the little white ones but gawked at us like we were lepers. Sound. The water's serpent breath, a depth as vast as my hatred. Skin, my chocolate coating, the rash gone now. As a kid I couldn't stand the drying effect water had, coming out wet, cracked, and sore all over. One time I caught a starfish. Second summer after my divorce. I'm not into beaches or riding waves these days. The only time I like the beach is when it's cold, hostile, and gray. I feel kin to it then. Or at night when it speaks a somber tongue only the enlightened perceived. When the ageless mouths join mine, when soft arms caress in time-worn gentleness, or the poor man's beach where the bodies echo my chromatic scheme, from Jeskin Pass to pitch tar black, at home among fleshy rumps, tummies, thighs, breasts jiggling a freedom our hearts will never know. Sound, eternal splash, a depth as vast as my love. Beached, I turn into the blanket, urge him to fuck me. He thinks it's corny. I get mad, I get up, stomp away, kicking the sand. While he was with her, I was on the beach wishing he was with me. At the beach, aware of his hands, urgent to touch, take me before we return to work our separate lives. Here, I watch you swim into the crest. I'd rather sit and sip wine, enjoy the wind, than swim or wade. I smile secretly at thinly clad slappers-on of lotion, a potion to ward off skin cancer. In my fantasy, I would challenge the ocean, a feminist Ahab stalking the great white whale, harpoon it, and ride down to meet Davy Jones, content for my America dies with me. Sound, swoosh, swoosh the scythe, a depth as vast as my vision. I could live by it, Pacifica, learn to like it. Now that you're with me, I might even let you teach me how to tread water. So that was Beaches, Why I Don't Care for Them. In terms of analysis, there is quite a bit worth talking about with this poem. In terms of narrative, it's just, a writer, like a narrator, talking about why they don't like the beach, but also revealing a little bit more, kind of highlighting its bad associations with just unfortunate stuff that's happened in their life, whether it be racism or them feeling fat and not being content on the beach, or even their mom just saying you're gonna ruin your hair that way, you're not gonna have a good time. And then getting really personal, talking about a bad relationship experience they had on the beach, wanting to have sex with someone, but then thinking that it's corny, which is kind of unfortunate if you were, kind of bearing your soul to someone and they're like, oh, that's corny, that's silly, that's not, I'm not treating you seriously. But then just talking about how you want to challenge the beach. And then ending on a more positive note, maybe indicating that you're in a better area. As the narrator notes, I could live by it, Pacifica, learn to like it, now that you're with me. I might even let you teach me how to tread water. And I choose to perceive that as kind of acknowledging a bad relationship in the past, but also noting the hope and potential for the future. Letting you teach me how to tread water, using a beach theme there, but treading water is a phrase that, like, living by worries, like living a more peaceful life, but not really caring as much and being okay with uncertainty and whatnot. At least that's my sort of understanding of what the narrator is saying in this poem. It's also interesting because it's sort of divided into like 3 different sections, I would say, or 4. And each section kind of ends at a point where it says sound, the waters are like a certain thing, and then like a depth as vast as my X. So you see like a sound, the water's serpent's breath, a depth as vast as my hatred, and then sound, eternal splash, a depth as vast as my love, and you see more of that. So you can see that this is a poem that's maybe meant to be spoken, maybe meant to have some background noise going along with it in order to highlight the emotions and the noises that are going on that you would find at a beach, but have different meaning here for the author. The poem doesn't really have a lot of punctuation, which is a hallmark of Wanda Coleman's poetry. She doesn't exactly, pause in certain places, and it's hard. It kind of throws you off kilter. It's not only something that happens in this poem, but just in general, she doesn't seem to use a lot of punctuation, or she puts it in strange places, and so each line feels a bit jarring at times. But it's still not jarring enough to take you off rhythm or sink it as a bad poem. It's more, I think she's trying to make you feel uncomfortable, as someone who would feel uncomfortable in this situation, they're uncomfortable with the beach. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Beaches, Why I Don't Care for Them by Wanda Coleman. A pretty good poem. I think probably one of the better ones that I've read for Black History Month here, and really recently. Wanda Coleman has a very interesting kind of perspective of the world, and I think it makes her poetry very interesting to read, and I encourage you to go seek it out, because this one has been kind of a real standout poem, but also standout poet. So again, go check that out. I'll put a link to this one in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or you just want to comment on my review here. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe as well, so that other people can find this poet or this poem if they don't already know about it. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and beachy travels. Farewell.